Good afternoon, everyone. It is David Schlotthauer here with an update on your weather forecast because we are talking about significant flooding across California, even portions of Nevada, as well as portions of Oregon as a series of atmospheric rivers slam the west, bringing feet of snow, inches of rain to nearly a foot, and some damaging wind gusts. Now, before I do get started, if you're new to the YouTube channel and you really like these videos, please consider subscribing if you're new, hitting the like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media. First and foremost, here's a look at the satellite imagery, and there's a lot of action out there lining up to hit California. The first storm system that we are monitoring that will move into the area tonight all the way through Sunday early morning is this system right here as I am circling in. That is going to be our next powerful storm that's going to bring a renewed threat of heavy rainfall, strong winds that could topple more trees down, and we're looking at more river flooding and several feet of snowfall for the higher elevations here of the Sierra. And then there's another storm system behind that. It is off the side of the screen, but it's all over here, and this is going to be moving right into California again, bringing the biggest threat possible of heavy rainfall, strong winds that could get close to tropical storm force, and we're also looking at a renewed threat of significant widespread flooding and very heavy snowfall for the mountains. So this is a very active pattern that we are really concerned about right now if you're in across northern, central, and even southern California. In fact, the Weather Prediction Center has issued a moderate risk for flash flooding over the North Bay as well as Mendocino in California, with a slight risk for flash flooding elsewhere with the marginal risk that surrounds that. This is a pretty big deal for California. We have had so much rainfall over the last 2 weeks that it doesn't take much now for a moderate risk for flash flooding to be issued. There's a marginal risk for flash flooding down here across the deep south from southeastern Texas into northern Louisiana, northern and central Mississippi, and Alabama. That's a very low threat compared to with what California is going to be dealing with in days to come. This continues to be a big threat here, a slight risk for day 2, or day 3 that is, from Sunday into Monday morning. That's really not the biggest deal because we have a little bit of a break in between storms, but just enough that there is going to be some sort of flooding that is going to be ongoing here in much of northern and central California throughout the day 3 time frame. Day 4, which is here, yes, that is a moderate risk. This is an experimental day 4 risk for moderate flooding potential that is anticipated here. For the Bay Area, for the Sierra foothills, there's a slight risk for flash flooding surrounding that. This is probably going to be upgraded to a large moderate risk for flash flooding, and doesn't even surprise me if some of the areas here like the coastal range mountains here and even the Sierra get upgraded to a high risk for flash flooding on the day 1 outlook from the Weather Prediction Center, because there is that level of high confidence that there is going to be some pretty intense life-threatening flooding potentially in many areas. Not only that, the day 5 outlook also kind of outlines a slight risk for flash flooding for Southern California, for Los Angeles, for portions there of San Bernardino, for Covina, for Laverne, for Santa Ana, for even portions there of Santa Monica, under a slight risk for flash flooding down there across California. So this is a 5-day threat of flooding concerns in California, especially on the day 5. They're already putting out a slight risk. That raises pretty good confidence that there is going to be some pretty intense rainfall coming through our area over the next 5 days, and there is much more after that. It doesn't end just beyond 5 days or at the 5-day mark. We're talking another big storm system by this time next week. So in about 8 or 9 days, another powerful atmospheric river could slam our area. So here's a look at the latest European model for today. This is January the 6th, 2023, and this literally is this afternoon. So we can see there's a little bit of snowfall that is anticipated over Colorado, over, say, Utah, so like Seattle. We're looking at some light to moderate snowfall accumulations. Nothing really big, nothing compared to California. My goodness, I would rather go to Arizona or the Four Corners right now than, say, being in California, because there's just so much rainfall that we're dealing with. Yes, we need it, but too much is too much, and we're just going to get too much too much of it through the next 4 or 5 days. So this continues all the way into, say, Saturday. There is our first system. Again, this is not the worst system yet. Okay, this is kind of a appetizer of what's to come. So you can see for California there, we're talking about moderate to heavy rainfall. We're gonna kind of zoom in here in just a little bit on that second system. We have another system that is going to be ejecting off of the Rockies into the deep south. This is gonna bring again that marginal risk for flash flooding for Sunday into Monday. So a very active weather pattern for the deep south and also for the west. But it is really when we get into, say, Sunday afternoon into Monday, the next atmospheric river really sets up. And I mean, this is from the European model, which is one of the more generous models. And we can see by Sunday night, the rain starts. It starts off rather light to moderate, and then it gets really heavy. Look at these dark green colors. That is off the charts. That is literally 2 inches per 6 hours of rain rates. So that's about 3/4 of an inch an hour coming down across Salinas, Santa Cruz, say, such as San Luis Valley, as well as the San Luis mountain range there in Southern California. Look at the snowfall coming down in the Sierra. My goodness, going to be very heavy rainfall rates throughout this area, and this continues all the way into Monday afternoon. I mean, the entire day Monday will be very stormy, windy. I mean, we're talking damaging winds. We're talking serious flood concerns, along to go with whiteout conditions and blizzard conditions for the higher elevations of California. And this continues all the way throughout Tuesday with lots of rain and strong winds. I mean, 2 days. We're talking Monday, we're talking Tuesday here, that we could have some very big flood problems out of this storm. It is not until we get into maybe even Wednesday now, we might finally dry out, but only for literally 36 hours before the next system comes in. Look at this. By Wednesday night, we have the chance here of seeing more rainfall for our area. Then maybe another break on Thursday, but I mean, it's going to be very hard. The models, if this trends further south, we're in more trouble than what is indicated here. And then the next atmospheric river sets up. Friday, we see another sequence for next week, and then another powerful atmospheric river hits our area by Saturday next week, the 14th and the 15th of January, and it looks like we are wet all the way through the entire 10-day forecast. So it's not over. We're just getting started. We have an entire work week ahead of us that we could be dealing with rounds upon rounds of rain, strong winds, and the potential for more fallen trees, landslides, rock slides, that sort of deal. That's where we're headed. We're also dealing with some very strong winds, okay? So the winds not so bad today, okay? The winds come up by the time we go into tomorrow. You can see a lot of green colors, orange colors. That indicates winds 20 to 30 miles an hour. Winds get close to 30 to 40 miles an hour by Saturday night. Look at the winds across the Bay Area, the Central Valley. They are just going to be screaming, okay? The last storm we had, the winds kind of underperformed. There's a pretty big confidence level here that winds might perform as what models show. Even the European model is latching onto this. Strong, damaging winds Saturday night, and that will continue all the way throughout Sunday morning. We don't get much of a break in the winds on Sunday. They calm down a little bit, but they will be back up yet again on Sunday night into Monday. Check this out. Here's a look at the NAM model. We can definitely see that the winds will be on the increase. Not that, I mean the 12 kilometer. We don't go out that far yet on the 3 kilometer model. But look at these sustained winds, 30 to 40 mile an hour winds across the Central Valley, with winds 35 to 50 miles an hour along the coast of California here. This is going to really lead to more fallen trees, power lines down, and that continues throughout the day Monday. Stormy Sunday night, stormy Monday, big time. We're talking about winds. Wind gusts, really quickly, I wanted to show you all this because, of course, people are curious. How strong are these winds gusts gonna be? Between, say, 50 to 60 miles an hour across the Central Valley, perhaps getting close to even 65 and 70 miles an hour by Monday morning into Monday early afternoon. That's going to be the biggest chances for a lot of fallen trees, widespread power outages, and a lot of problems. Again, I'm not trying to overhype this. I'm not trying to be over-exaggerating. This is serious. We have had over 11 inches of rain in the last 10 days in many areas. From the Weather Prediction Center had tweeted that out. We're going to just add on another foot of rainfall throughout the middle of next week. And so any wind we get could really knock down trees and power lines, especially the tall trees that are 100 feet tall. They can come down with these storms that we're dealing with. All right, so now that we talked about how strong the winds are going to be, let's talk about how much rainfall is expected. And again, let's go kind of backtrack here. Let's go throughout the next 5 days. This is going to run all the way through Wednesday morning. Look at these rain totals, anywhere between 4 to 8 inches of rainfall for many areas, with higher elevations possibly getting 10 inches. This is on a global numerical model, so it's not going to really pinpoint exactly how much rain you're going to get. We're averaging things out on other models, so we can see here the European being very aggressive here. And just to make better sense of myself, 7-day rainfall anomalies here are 5 inches above normal. So even so this might not seem a lot, well, it's a lot in a 5-day period. That's an inch a day on average that we're dealing with. The previous model run from the European had even 7 to 12 inches of rainfall in many areas. That might trend back. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But either way, a lot is a lot, and we are going to certainly see a lot of flooding on our rivers, streams, a lot of problems. So that's what we're dealing with right now across northern and central California throughout the next 5 days. We're adding more to this for the next week's storm system, probably an additional 4 to 8 inches of rainfall, let alone for the week or for the weekend of the 14th through the 16th. For Northern California, this is from the European model, still forecasting almost 20 inches of rainfall in some areas in the next 10 days. That is literally 2 inches a day on average for these locations. So too much rainfall, and the anomaly really speaks for itself here. Well above normal rainfall anomalies for much of California. In fact, almost 18 inches above normal in some areas. So we really need the rain, but boy, this is really significant. Snowfall accumulations, definitely over 100 inches in many areas here of the Sierra over the next 10 days. We're talking 3 to 5 feet of snowfall in some of the higher peaks in Nevada as well as Idaho. Some of the Cascades up here, probably going to see 1 to 2 feet of snow, actually 3 to 6 feet of snow, but the majority of California here could top off at 10 plus feet of snowfall in the next 10 days or so. That's a lot of snow, and there's going to be avalanches. There's going to be a lot of problems. All right, so with that being said, what about the Climate Prediction Center? What is their opinion? Are they agreeing with my forecast? What are they saying? Well, right now they are saying that there's an 80 to 90% chance that the Bay Area, the Sacramento area, Modesto, as well as even the northern San Joaquin Valley and the northern portion of California will have an 80 to 90% chance of seeing well above normal precipitation that extends its reach all the way down into Southern California, where you have a 70 to 80% chance of seeing well above average precipitation. Of course, to the Four Corners, see lesser amounts, and then the Midwest, like Missouri, you have a leaning above chance, 50 to 60 there, and a 50 to 60% chance for the eastern seaboard. And of course, Colorado and Utah really need more snow. You're kind of on the borderline between leaning above and likely above normal precipitation. Below average for southern Texas, northern portion of the United States, like the Great Lakes and the Dakotas, will likely see near normal precipitation. The 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook running through the 20th of January, yep, we're at 70 to 80% chance, of course, across California. And some of the super spatial model runs that go way out there into the 25th of January also denote well above average chances. We might just go through a very dryless January versus last year we could not even get a drop in our rain gauges. This time we cannot even dry out. So huge extreme from winter to winter across our area. So definitely well needed rain back west, but too much is enough. And a lot of the rivers, small streams are going to overflow their banks, and we're going to see a lot of levee breaches, I'm sure, and we're going to see a lot of landslides. Here's a look at the high wind forecast as well as the impacts. Heavy rainfall, flooding likely, heavy snow, strong winds. Everything is just demarcated in California with heavy rainfall likely for Arizona, with heavy snowfall for Utah and Colorado from the 13th through the 17th. So good news. Some of the snow going to go hopefully into Lake Mead, or some of that water. We need to fill up Lake Mead really badly, and we got to rely on the Utah and Colorado snowfall coverage for that. So when it melts off during the springtime, we can get that water into Lake Mead and some of our other reservoirs, especially ones around here in California. The risk of heavy precipitation is very high, especially for central and southern California, where you have a high risk of heavy rainfall that will lead to flooding, a moderate risk for heavy rainfall and flooding for central and northern California, and then of course above that, a slight risk for heavy rainfall from the Pacific Northwest all the way down to Arizona. You have a slight risk for heavy rainfall for the eastern seaboard, as we mentioned, with maybe that winter storm that may try to develop later on in the forecast. Actually, I never showed you all that. I'm so sorry. So hopefully you didn't skip and leave the video at this point. But we do have that storm system to really watch for across the eastern seaboard. That could bring a lot of rain, some strong winds by the end of next week into the weekend. So a very active, busy coast-to-coast weather event could be happening by next weekend of the 14th through the 16th. So get ready. All right, so that's a look at the slight risk. Now, a moderate risk for flash flooding looks to be a likelihood scenario here when you take, not flash flooding, strong winds. Sorry, I'm getting myself mixed up here. A slight risk for damaging winds for the Pacific Northwest. A moderate risk, the highest on the list here for strong winds for the 13th through the 15th for California. That includes a moderate risk for wind gusts that could reach over 60 miles an hour in these areas. So some big time winds, heavy rainfall, heavy snowfall are all anticipated. Everything you want with a winter storm is right in front of us for California. So make sure you are prepared. Make sure you have your generators ready. Make sure you have food that is non-refrigerated. Make sure you have everything ready to go. I don't like hyping this up. I do not like scaring you all. That's not what I'm here to doing. Please understand that. What I'm here to do is make sure you guys are prepared, because we've had too much rainfall in California, and only more will add on to the flood risk, and it will exacerbate the process with debris flows, mud, rock, landslides, and everything like that. And with more rain coming on in through the next 4 to 5 days, it is no surprise why we're going to see what we're going to see with a lot of extreme impacts in our area. You can look it up, San Francisco National Weather Service. You can look them all up. In California, there are warnings out all over the place. In fact, I think the entire state mostly is under, and we just went under a wind advisory. Believe it or not, another strong wind event is now anticipated for my area, with flash flood watches and warnings that are out for this area. I mean, it's bathed again. This is the 4th or 5th time we have had so many alerts out for our area. All right, well, anyways, thank you all for tuning into this video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you do subscribe for latest updates. I'm going to try my best at uploading as often as I can, but if there's going to be strong winds that could bring down trees and power lines, we see basement flooding here, it's going to be very hard for me just to keep up on YouTube. Very, very stressful time here where I live due to the heavy rainfall, but I'll try my best at keeping you all on your toes when it comes to the weather. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll be back with you more soon with more weather updates.